Hello, it's Ty with Dispute Suite, and in this training video, we're actually going to do a walkthrough of the Business Credit and Business Funding Suite. And I'm going to take some time here. This is going to be a longer video than most of the training videos you've seen because we're really going to take a look in depth at the system. We're going to walk through each step in depth. We're going to look at the funding products, look at the business credit products. We're going to talk about the features, the benefits, and we're really going to talk about selling points here, talking points. Even go through kind of a mock presentation and go through some of the things you should be saying to clients when you're walking them through the system. So enjoy this. I think this is one of the best videos you're going to see because you're going to get a lot of insight on what the system could do for you and your clients as we go through it. So let's talk about it. This is the home screen of the Business Credit and Funding Suite. Now your clients are going to see your logo information right up here, and where it says welcome business credit, they're going to see their own information here. Welcome, ABC company, the name of their company right here. Now you can already see that we've spent a lot of time, energy, and money making sure the system is in the credit portal skin. So this is already in a format you're familiar with because it looks similar to the Dispute Suite credit portals, but in this system you're actually going to be able to actually build the business credit and business funding, or your clients are able to do that right here. So let's get started on the dashboard. The first screen you see here is what we call a dashboard. This is kind of the central place, the starting point that people will come to. The first thing you're going to see is up here, there's a little wording or a little tip about where they are in the process. Now, with each step they go through, there will be audio and video that will play up here also. So there's always a tip or audio or video in this section. This will talk about the actual step they're on. This is a 6-step system, and we're going to walk through all 6 steps. This is going to give them a little overview of the step that they're on. This is amazing technology here that we're going to talk about in step 3 that interfaces with their business credit report, so in real time they can monitor their business credit building. This is a quick overview of the step that they are on in the process, and here's a detailed overview of the step they are in the process where they can get details of all the things they did in those 6 steps. Down here they can get an overview of the funding programs that they've applied for and qualified for, and there's even some other bonuses like little workbooks they can download here, which we're going to go over. So all of this is accessible and available and is what they will see on their actual main screen. Now, when a client first gets started with the system, they're only going to have access to step 1. All the rest of these steps are going to be blocked out. So you're going to have access to a system with all 6 steps to sell the system, but the client's only going to have access to step 1. So when you're going through it with them, you want to make sure you remind them of that. So this is an overview as we just went through. It's kind of a good idea to do the same overview when you go through it with a client. I have found that the system is much easier to sell if you're physically showing it to a prospective customer. You might be a little different. You might learn that you're very effective at selling this without showing it to them. Another portion of people watching this video might realize that if you're doing a live webinar and showing it to them through a webinar, it's a great way to actually sell the system. And there's something called Join Me, Join-Me, Join Me. Join Me is free, and it's really easy way that you can get people into where they can see your screen live. You basically download Join Me, you open it up, you send them an invitation, an email invitation. In their email there's a link, and when they click the link, they're looking at a screen just like you are here, where they're actually seeing the actual system itself. GoToMeeting is another one you can use for live webinars. So you want to look at some kind of software like GoToMeeting or Join Me, where you can have people easily come in, see your screen, and then you can walk through the system with them. Again, you might become proficient with selling it without doing that, but it definitely helps if they can physically see it, because this is such a powerful product that when most people see it, they are completely sold when they see it. They just need to physically see it. So when you go through it with them, you're going to be able to give them the overview as I did, and then you want to start right on step 1.1, okay, because this is going to show them exactly where they're going to start. Now, what you're going to see here is this video is playing. She's talking up here. There's a video playing. As I said, there's always going to be audio and video. I'm not sure if you can hear her, but I can, so I'm going to move on to the next step so I can't. Every step will have audio and video here, which makes it really nice for clients because they can read through each step, or they can simply come in and play the audio or video and listen or see what's involved here without reading it through. So in step 1.1, the client is actually getting started with completing a funding application. This is the first stage of them completing a funding application. So they're going to come in and enter information such as their corporation, such as the state that their corporation was formed in. All the information they would normally enter on a funding application is what they're going to start entering in step 1. But our funding application is unlike anything you've ever seen, because what this application does is it's really designed to help make sure your prospects get approved before they even apply. What we're doing is, as they complete the funding application, we're actually giving them insight. We're actually teaching them exactly what the lender is looking for with those things. So instead of just having them enter their full legal name, we talk to them about exactly what lenders are looking for regarding their business name, the type of corporation they're filing, their DBAs. We're talking to them about their actual business address and location, and the need to have a physical address, and how P.O. boxes won't work. So we're explaining all these details to them, so as they complete the funding application, we can make sure as they enter their name and their contact name and the city and state and their address, we can make sure that every space they're completing, that they're going to meet the criteria that the lender's looking for. So this is really nice feature, because if the client goes through and reads through and then follows the steps, they're going to make sure that they have the right business entity set up, the address, all the things the way the lender wants. This way, when they submit an application, they know they're going to get approved. There's really not a lot of guesswork. Okay, we're also going to come in here and even do checks. Like, we're checking here to make sure they're entering a real landline phone number. It's going to create an issue if they're trying to enter a cell phone, because they're not going to get approved for business credit and funding with a cell phone number. So we're doing a check here to make sure it's a landline. We're doing a check to make sure they're entering a real physical business address. They can't enter a home address here. Nobody's going to give them a $150,000 credit line and a loan for $5 million if they have an address that is a home address. They need to have a physical address. So we're going to do a check here to make sure that they meet that criteria. And the other great benefit of step 1 is that if they don't meet the criteria, a one-click solution is available right here for them. So let's say somebody has a P.O. box for their address, or they have a home address as their address. Well, when that's the case, then they're not going to get approved. They need to get an actual physical address. So we'll give them advice on setting up a virtual address. And if they don't have a virtual address and they need help, in one click they can connect to a company to set up a virtual address. Now, the benefit here, there's a few of them. First of all, we've already negotiated really low rates for them on these things. Some of these products, like a virtual address, they might need to pay for if they don't have one. That's not something we can arrange for them to get for free. But what we can do is negotiate with a top company and get them a wholesale rate, a rate cheaper than they're ever going to be able to get on their own. And that's what we've done. So if they do need to set up a business address, for example, and they need to click to do that, we've at least arranged for a wholesale option for them, so they don't need to go look everywhere. They just have access to the cheapest, best option available to set up a virtual address. The other benefit is that any of these companies that we can have arranged that do report to Dun & Bradstreet, we arranged for these companies to report their payments to the business credit reporting agencies so they can actually build their business credit. So for example, if they're signing up for Laughlin's Corporation Services to set up their corporation, that will actually be reported to the business credit reporting agencies. So that means as they're paying that, they can also have a trade account set up with the business credit reporting agencies. Now, please understand, that's not like that with all of these services. Some services don't report to Dun & Bradstreet. They don't report to the business credit reporting agencies. So we couldn't arrange that. But the ones that do have relationships with the bureaus, we arrange for any payments the customer makes to be reported to the bureaus. So it's just another benefit if they do need to take this step. But again, if the business is established, if they have a real address, they're going to fly through this. It's just filling out a normal application. They're going to fly through. But if you have a business that's not really credibly and legitimately set up, and you have somebody that comes in and they have a brand new business, man, this is perfect because this will actually help walk them through every aspect of what's needed for their business, make sure they set up all aspects of that business correctly. So it's perfect for somebody that doesn't have a truly credible business on paper. This is great steps to help them make sure their business is credible, and it's great steps to help somebody that's just starting a brand new business. We walk them through every aspect of what they're completing on the application. We talked to them about business phone numbers, toll-free numbers, fax numbers, and again, solutions are available if they don't have these things. We even talked to them about the importance of having their number listed in a 411 directory. If they're not listed in the appropriate 411 directories, they probably will not get approved for business credit and funding. We do that for them. We have them enter their phone number here, and if they want us to go ahead and list their number, they just click yes, hit save and continue, and we do it for them for free. Keep in mind, anything we can do for them on these type of services for free, we do, like 411 listings. It doesn't cost us anything, so we do that for them at no cost. But some other things, like a virtual fax, well, they might need to get with a company and pay them $9 a month or whatever it may be if they don't have a fax, but that's the time that we negotiated wholesale solutions for them there. Okay, but anything like 411 or anything that doesn't cost us any money, we do those things for the client. So if they're not listed in 411, they wouldn't get approved, but through step one, we can make sure that they do that so they would get approved. We're going to go through their domains, their email addresses, all aspects of their business that they're going to complete on the application in step one we're walking through. We're even going to help them open a bank account or understand how they need to open a bank account. It's very important that their name be done a certain way. That banking history reflects a certain way. So we're going to explain that. We're going to give the client in step one an option of setting up a merchant account. So if they want to process credit cards, we're going to give them the availability to do so. They don't have to do this. This is just a benefit. The reason this is being offered is because there's a few different types of funding product that ties in with merchant processing. So we want to make sure if they don't have access to this now, that they do have access so they'll qualify for even more funding. So all these things are available to them in step one. And again, they're just walking through step one. They're completing a funding application, and as they go, we make sure they're meeting the actual lending requirements. When they finish step one, they finished the first step or the credibility step of their actual funding suite. Now what's going to happen is they're going to get a little message here to reach out and make contact with their actual business credit coach. When they talk to the business credit coach, the coach is going to make sure they don't have any questions, make sure that everything was done correctly, and then they're going to move on to step two. The coaches are there to help, and you're going to see that there's two coaches involved in the system. There's a business credit coach that helps them through all aspects of building business credit. There's also a funding advisor, and the funding advisor will help them with all aspects of getting approved for funding. We're going to talk more about that advisor in step two. So when they finish step one, they're going to talk to that business credit coach. That coach is just kind of there to answer any questions, make sure everything is set up okay. Then it will unlock step two so the client can move on to step two. Some of these safeguards, like the coach getting involved, they're there to help the customer. They're all also there to make sure everything is being done the right way, so when the client does go to get approved, again, that the client does get approved. And that's really the goal of the system. Yes, the goal of the system is to give them unprecedented access to business credit and funding. I mean, the client will never find anywhere, another place, that they have this much access to business credit and business funding. But we also want to make sure they get approved when they apply. And that's what a lot of these details and checks are for, to make sure they meet the criteria before they apply, so when they do apply, they have the best chance of getting approved. And in step two, they're going to continue that. In step two, what they're doing is they're completing the funding application. This is a step we call fundability. It's called fundability because this is where we're diving into their business. We want to know how much revenue they're generating. Are they doing credit card sales? We're asking them questions about their personal and business assets. Do they have a business plan? All these things are going to tie in to their success in getting approved for business funding. Do they have real estate? Do they have IRAs and 401ks? Do they have invoices with customers and purchase orders and equipment? All these questions are being asked because these questions all tie in with funding programs that they are able to qualify for. Hey, even here, if they don't know what their credit scores are, in one click they can get access to their actual credit scores. Okay, so once they do that, they complete that section, and what's going to happen is it's going to pull up details of all the different funding programs that they're going to qualify for. Okay, then they can click go to programs. They can read a description of the funding program. then all of the information they already entered on the funding application auto-populated for them. How nice is that, right? So they don't even need to complete the funding app. It's already all done for them. And then they click apply now, and it actually submits that funding application. Now, when they submit the funding application, when they click not now, then what will happen is those programs will then come down here so they still have access to them. So they see the programs they actually apply for, and they see all the funding programs here that they qualify for but don't apply for. So this is what happens. When the client enters that information in step 2 and it completes, the system cross-checks the information they entered against guidelines for hundreds of actual institutions. There's actually over about 2,100 actual financing sources in the system, and there's over 400 direct lenders. So what happens is that information is cross-checked against underwriting guidelines for hundreds of different programs or institutions and over 30 different funding program guidelines. Then it renders a decision of all the programs they qualify for. Now, as long as the information they entered in step 1 and 2 is accurate, meaning their address and time in business and revenue and all those things, as long as they put good, correct information in there, then we now know all the programs that they're all automatically going to qualify for. Then it's just a matter of them clicking on a program, opening up the description, the application auto-populates, and in one more click, they submit the application. Now, when they submit the application, it does not go to the lender. It goes to their funding advisor. So they click submit, it goes to their funding advisor. Their funding advisor then calls them up and says, hey, my name is, Joe, I'm your funding advisor. What are you looking to do? I see you're applying here for an unsecured credit line. And the client says, I'm looking to start a brand new business. I need $50,000. And the funding advisor says, okay, let me talk to you about the best options, the terms, these type of things. And that's what the funding advisor then does. The funding advisor then works with the client one-on-one to understand the different funding programs, explain the different funding programs. The funding advisor will get them any additional documentation, such as if they need their credit report or they need, bank statements to prove their revenue, or if they need whatever it may be. The funding advisor works with the client to get the documentation. Then the funding advisor works with the underwriter and the lender to actually get that client approved. So that funding advisor is the confidant of the client. That funding advisor is dedicated to helping the client actually go through and get approved for the funding. Now, of the different funding programs that are available, there are a lot. There are over 30 core funding products, and I'll give you an idea of how I personally group them. I group them like this. First of all, starter businesses. There's a great credit line up to $150,000 through the system that you and your clients are going to use a lot. This is one of the most popular funding products I've ever seen in the system because, first of all, it doesn't require financials or revenue to qualify. So the client doesn't need bank statements. They don't need tax returns. They don't need P&L statements to qualify. It's kind of a no-doc credit line where all they really need is good credit to qualify. They do need good personal credit. They're really looking for, they say 660 credit scores and higher, but they're really looking for credit about a 700 level. Stuff that has no bankruptcy, no judgment, no tax lien, no foreclosure on the credit. If you've got a pretty good credit customer, quality customer, 700 credit scores, let's say, they stand a very good chance of coming in and getting approved for up to $150,000 credit line for their business. Okay, and that means they're not going to have to provide financials to qualify, and it doesn't even matter if they're an existing business. This is good for brand new businesses and franchises. That's a great product that you're going to use a lot of. So if you're talking to people with good credit, even if they have a starter business, you want to mention that there's a credit line up to $150,000 that's available through the system. That's great for starter businesses and franchises, and great for businesses that don't want to show revenue. Okay, then there's a whole nother tier of what I call working capital financing. It actually has to do with, it's kind of asset-based lending, where if you have somebody that has an existing business, they can borrow money against the assets in that business. Now, what's great about this segment of funding is that credit isn't as big of a deal. People that have 600 credit scores, even people that have mid to low 500 credit scores, still can qualify for this kind of funding because it's using assets of the business as collateral for the debt. And when the lender has collateral, they're not as concerned with the personal credit. For example, the other credit line I just told you about, all they're using is the personal credit to qualify. That's why that person needs to have good credit. But somebody that has assets in their business that they can borrow against, credit's not as big of a factor. Even with 500 credit scores, they can qualify for some of that funding. Some of that funding includes account receivable financing and purchase order financing, where they're borrowing against account receivables and purchase orders in their business. Inventory financing, where they're borrowing against inventories in their business. Revenue financing, where they're actually showing 4 months or so of revenue and they're borrowing against future revenue in the business. That's fantastic. It has real flexible terms, and it's great for seasonal businesses because as the revenue declines, so will their payment. So revenue lending is a great program, and it's based on the revenue that they're actually producing. Merchant card credit and merchant advances are two more great programs. Those are based on their merchant processing history. So if you have somebody even that doesn't have great credit, but they have credit cards as assets and they have process credit cards for their business, then business revenue lending and merchant card advances and merchant card credit are perfect for them. Those are great options where they can borrow against their merchant accounts to actually get funding. There's even equipment financing in here where they could borrow against equipment, and another program that requires 640 credit scores or more where they could use to lease equipment, even use to lease vehicles. So they could even go get vehicle leasing and they could lease equipment in their business name through the system. Then there's another segment which I kind of call niche financing. This is just financing that's really for a specific niche. For example, rehab financing, where they can come in and get up to 65% of repaired value and get financing to buy a property and rehab that property. They can get financing for commercial signage, so they could put a commercial sign in front of their building. They could get financing specifically for that. They could get financing to wrap a vehicle, to do actually a graphic wrap around their vehicle to kind of turn it into a mobile billboard. They can get specific financing just for that. They can even get financing for retirement plan based financing and 401k based financing. So if they have stocks or they have 401ks, they can borrow against those stocks or 401ks and qualify for even more financing. And that kind of niche financing has about a mid 600 type of credit score requirement. They're looking for 640, 660. They're really looking for no major outstanding collections or judgments or tax liens that are out there. Somebody that has pretty average credit is going to be able to qualify for that, a lot of that niche kind of financing. Then you have the final tier, which is the high-end financing. This is financing that's for people that have revenue, they have financials, they're willing to show their tax returns for a couple years, they've got profit and loss statements, they make good money, they show good net profits. Those businesses are able to qualify for credit lines up to $250,000. They're also able to qualify for SBA loans up to $12 million. And keep in mind, $12 million is not our ceiling. Account receivable factoring, that alone goes up to $25 million, and we've personally through the system secured there was a $10 million transaction that took place using funding from the system. So that gives you an overview of the funding. Now, in your training folder, there is a training guide that goes through and explains a lot of these programs also. But in this video, I want to go through and kind of talk to you about that. The unsecured credit line up to $150,000 for startup businesses. Businesses that are already existing that have assets such as inventory and purchase orders and receivables and credit card sales. Then other business financing that's niche financing for vehicle wrapping and commercial signage and or rehabbing properties, to even high-end financing, including SBA loans up to $12 million and credit lines up to $250,000. It's all available here. And that's why you've heard me say before, you're never going to find another place that has more business credit and funding in one place. And you might have clients that ask you, what makes your system so different? Well, our system is the only one that really puts together business credit and business funding. It gives them the capability of building business credit and also gives them the access to build extensive or obtain extensive business funding. So that walks through step 2 and some of the hot points you're going to want to mention to your client. Now, keep in mind, they finished the funding application. That's all they've done at this point. If their business is set up right and everything, they have a real address and a real phone number, well then in that case, they're going to be able to come in here and get started right away. I mean, they're going to finish the application in 30 minutes to an hour, and they're going to have access to funding right away. Once they click and apply and talk into a funding advisor, they can then start getting funding right away. The unsecured credit line up to $150,000, that takes about 3 to 4 weeks to close. And that's a good average to tell customers. When they say, how long does it take to get my money? Say, it depends. Some options take days, some options take months. But on average, it only takes about 3 to 4 weeks to get funding. And that's the best answer, because some programs do take months. A $12 million SBA loan might take 2 months to close. Okay, but at the same time, if they set up AR factoring and they're borrowing against receivables, they could get money in 48 hours. So the most important thing to know is that you always want to tell them that it could take about 2 to 3 weeks to actually secure their money. So they came in, they got access to the system, they finished step 1 and 2 within a week, and now they're access to funding. Now they're already in getting approved for hundreds of thousands of dollars in actual funding. So now we got them access to money, and that's what most of them are looking for. They want access to money, and we've done that in step 2. So now we move on to step 3. And in step 3, what we're doing is beginning the process of building business credit for the client. So we first go through in step 3 and explain how the business credit reporting agencies work, how their credit scores range, who the 3 agencies are, what their credit score models are. We give them that education so they can understand exactly who the 3 companies are that offer business credit scores, and the details of those scores. Then we give them access here to Experian Smart Business Score, where all they need to do is enter their business name, city, and state, hit refresh, and it will instantly, at no cost, pull up, do they have a credit profile, how many trades do they have a score, and how much information does Experian really have on them. They're going to know that right away at no cost. This is fantastic. This is the only place you're really going to ever see this technology where they can interface with Experian for free and see basically what's on their credit report. They can get an overview of this at no cost. That's amazing. And it goes to show you how credible the system is. We're the only ones, this system is the only system out there that interfaces directly with the business credit reporting agencies. So when you're talking to clients, when they're comparing us to other companies, it's easy for you to say, wow, look at how credible we are. We're the only one with a real-time interface with the business credit reporting agencies. Nobody else has that. It goes to show you the credibility of the system. And they can come in here in step 3, enter their basic information, and obtain an Experian Smart Business Report at no cost. They can even come here and enroll for Experian's full credit reports with their credit monitoring. They could do it with Equifax, and they could do it with Dun & Bradstreet. Now, it's important to say, the client can use the Experian Smart Business data to build business credit. They never need to get their full business credit reports. If they do elect to get their business credit reports, there will be a cost. They will pay, for example, for their full Dun & Bradstreet report. But we've, again, negotiated a wholesale rate for them. So they can get started and get a full access to their business credit report and a business credit profile built with Dun & Bradstreet for only $39 a month. I think if you go to their site, they charge between $80 and $100 a month for the exact same thing we're offering for less than $40. So the client really gets about a 50 to 70% discount if they elect to do this. And again, they don't have to. The Experian Smart Business data gives them what they need, but if they choose to get a full Dun & Bradstreet report, they could do so here and get it at a massive discount. They also, through this step, can get their DUNS number at no cost. Okay, Dun & Bradstreet will try to charge them for this. If the client calls Dun & Bradstreet, Dun & Bradstreet's going to try to charge them upwards of $700 for a package with the DUNS number. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people get a DUNS number for free. There's an indirect ways to get them. But for the most part, a lot of clients, if they call Dun & Bradstreet directly, they will be quoted $500 to $700 for this. So this adds a lot of value to the system because you could tell the client this is the only place they can really get a DUNS number at no cost, and they can get access to that Experian data at no cost too, and this is the only place that that's really available for them. So in step 3, we're actually going to help them set up their credit reports so they can monitor what's taking place during the process. Now, that Experian file they set up is right here. So when they come through and they save that, it stores how many trade lines they had. How many do they have a credit score, and do they have a plus profile? A plus report means Experian really knows who they are. This is what they're going to see when they really start building business credit. Even through here, they can connect with Dun & Bradstreet, Equifax, and LexisNexis and get full detailed reports there too. And again, this is the only system on planet Earth that gives real technology like this that is live interface with the business credit reporting agency. So literally, if they add in a trade line to their Experian report right now while I'm on this call, or while I'm actually filming this number would change. And this is the only system on the planet where in real time they get real-time access to their credit report data. The business credit reporting agencies actually in real-time live data stream their information in our system, and it just goes to show how credible our system is. It's the only system on the planet that actually does this, where we have this relationship with the business agencies. So now they have their business credit reports. Now they can start monitoring their business credit building. So the next step is to start building business credit, which moves them to step 4. Now, step 4, they're going to get introduced to vendors. These are all vendors here. Okay, some vendors they're familiar with, some they're not. Vendors are the gatekeepers of business credit. With building business credit, let me explain how business credit works. How business credit works is that it's kind of like personal credit in the sense that somebody comes in and they apply for credit, they get credit, and that credit's then reported to the business credit reporting agencies. Here's the problem. Most people have no idea what companies report to the business credit reporting agencies. So because of that, nobody knows where to go to get business credit. A lot of people have heard of it before. They'd like to have business credit profiles built, but they don't know how to. And the reason is because if they go into Home Depot, for example, Home Depot requires that they have an 80 Paydex score established. Home Depot requires that they have 5 to 10 trade lines already set up. So that's the catch-22. If the client doesn't know where to go to get accounts that report to the business credit report, they can't build a credit profile and score. That's what vendors are. Vendors are companies that they can go to that will give them credit on short term, like net 30 terms. But they take this credit and they report it to the appropriate business credit reporting agencies. So now they came in and they got $1,000 credit line with Radio Shack, okay? And it's only on a net 30 term, which means whatever they borrow, they have to pay back in a month. Let's say they borrow $15 worth of stuff on their credit line. Then a week later, they pay Radio Shack back that $15. Radio Shack then reports that account as paid as agreed to Dun & Bradstreet Experian, and now that client has a trade line established with the Radio Shack. Meaning now, on their business credit report, they have an account that lists Radio Shack with a perfect payment history, and a credit score is now established. And so on and so on. That's how it works with vendors. So what a client is going to do in step 4 is they're going to get at least 5 of these vendor accounts. Like I said, some of them are companies they're probably not familiar with. Some of them, like Radio Shack and Sprint, we're all familiar with. So it's a combination. But these are a lot of the companies that will actually help them come in and build their actual business credit. Now, what we're doing here in step 4 is we're going to explain what the company sells, who they report to, their exact criteria to get approved, and the exact steps that need to be followed to get approved, and the terms, such as net 30. So it makes it easy for the client to come in, find a type of company that they want to do business with, read the description of what they sell, know who they report to, and follow the steps to get approved, so then they can have that trade line built. And in step 4, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to come in, they're going to use a lot of these sources to actually build at least 5 trade lines. Now, when they do this, when they finish step 5, finish step 4, now they're going to have accounts set up. They're going to need to use those accounts. So like I said, they're going to need to spend $10 at Radio Shack. They're going to need to spend $15 at Staples. Those companies then report the accounts to the business credit reporting agencies. A business credit score is then established. And now the client has a business credit profile and score. Okay, and they're going to want to keep adding depth to that, meaning they're going to want to keep adding more and more and more business credit to improve their credit profile and score through time. Now, let me interject here and tell you something very important in case you don't already know it. Business credit is much different than personal credit. Business credit scores are based on only one factor. How does the business pay? If you have a business that pays their bills as agreed for 12 months, they will instantly have an excellent business credit score. That's all a business credit score reflects. So literally, if you've heard the term before, 80 Paydex, an 80 Paydex score is, Paydex is Dun & Bradstreet's credit score, and an 80 means you have good credit. It's the equivalent of like a 740 personal credit score. So if you have an 80 credit score in the business world, you have really good credit. Well, all 80 means literally is that you pay the bill as agreed. If you had a 90 score, that would mean you paid the bill early during the discount period. If you have a 100 score, that would mean you pay the bill really early. If you have a 70 score, it would mean you pay the bill about 2 weeks late, and so on and so on. So all that number reflects is, do you pay the bill on time or not? That's it. So all you need to do to build a really good credit score for your clients, and all they need to do is just get accounts with the vendors, pay them early or as agreed, and they will instantly have an excellent credit score established. Now, and that doesn't take a lot of time to do, they can go in step 4, they can find 5 companies, they can apply, they could use those companies this week, they can pay those companies back next week. Those companies would then report to the business credit reporting agencies, and typically within 30 days, a business credit profile and score would be established. So your clients can actually get access to the system, and within 30 days, definitely within 60, they can come in and they can build an excellent business credit profile and score and start qualifying for business credit that fast. Okay, when I did mine, I had an 80 Paydex in 30 days. Some people don't move as fast as I do. Might take them upwards of 60. But it's very practical for a client to have a perfect credit score, an excellent credit score, in 30 to 60 days and start getting approved for business credit. So now they've come in, they got the accounts report, and now this number changes. So what's going to happen is now they're going to be able to move on to step 5. When they move on to step 5, this is when they're actually coming in and starting the process of building real business credit. And through this step, they're going to have massive amounts of access to credit. First, we're going to go through different types of cards, like starter set cards, which are Staples and Office Depot and Tractor Supply and Home Depot. These accounts are accounts that a lot of them, they're going to be able to qualify with no personal guarantee and no personal credit check. And that is one of the major benefits of business credit, is that first of all, if you have somebody with bad personal credit, they can still obtain tens of thousands of dollars of business credit. A lot of business credit can be obtained with no personal guarantee, no personal credit check. So if they're not checking the personal credit, even people with bad or challenged credit can qualify for business credit. And there's no personal guarantee. So even if the person has great personal credit, then this allows them to create a separate profile different than their personal credit for their business. And again, now they can get all this credit with no personal guarantee, which means they're not personally liable for their own debt. So if they defaulted on $50,000 in business credit, those creditors cannot pursue the personal asset. They can't come after the business owner's home and the business owner's bank accounts. There's no personal liability here. There's no personal guarantee. So those are major benefits to the owner. Walmart, Costco, some of the accounts they can build. And that's why they really want to build business credit. Amazon, Dell. These are $10,000 accounts, some of them that you're looking at. The major benefits is to build this credit with no personal guarantee, no personal credit check. And as you go through step 5, you're going to see there's a lot of credit they can get. Credit at stores like Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club. These are gas cards with Chevron, BP, Sinclair, Speedway. Even actual MasterCards and Visas they can use anywhere. On this page alone, you see Home Depot, $10,000 limit. Okay, Sam's Club, $10,000 limit. Racetrack, $10,000. On this page alone, there's over $120,000 worth of credit they can get. And a lot of it, like this one, this is just a MasterCard for $10,000. They can get a $10,000 MasterCard in a few months with no personal guarantee and no personal credit check. There's no way you could do that in the personal credit world. You couldn't build a personal credit score and profile and in 3 months or 4 months down the road qualify for $10,000 credit limits. But in the business credit world, you can. And it's not just one account. 10,000, as you see here, after 10,000, after 10,000. These are all $10,000 accounts. So what happens is after they finish step 4, then it becomes just wherever they want to apply. All these options are available. If they come in today and want a $10,000 MasterCard, they just follow the steps here that we give them to apply. They make sure they meet the requirements. So on this account, they want them to have 10 trade lines. So they would just want to make sure they had 10 trade lines. And they have a D&B file, which they'd have, and they'll get $10,000. So it'll explain the different details of what's needed. Then they could just simply apply and get approved. And that's the great thing about step 5, is that anytime they want to come back they can come back and apply. And the only limit to how much money they can get is really how much they're applying for, because there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of credit just available in this step. Just on this one page, like I said, there's over $120,000 worth of credit. So it makes it real easy for them in step 5 to come in anytime they want and get credit at stores like Sears, like Lowe's, and even get straight MasterCard and Visas. So now here you come in, your client came through step 1 and 2, and within a very short period of time, they got funding, access to massive amounts of funding. They then came in, they completed step 3, got their credit reports. Step 4, they built their vendor accounts and established a good credit score for their business. And in step 5, they're getting approved for massive amounts of business credit. Then we wrap up with step 6. And step 6, what they're doing in step 6 is just coming back to funding. Because now they've built their business credit profile and score, step 6 takes them all the way back to a lot of the funding options. Because now they're going to have a much better chance of getting approved for funding in their business name, not just their personal. Meaning that they can start getting approved for a lot of this business or this actual business funding now without the personal guarantee, because now they have a strong business credit profile, strong business credit score. So a lot of these financing sources will use the business credit profile and score to lend them money, not their personal. And that's why they come back to the funding programs in step 6, because now that they finish this in step 6, they're able to come in and qualify for a lot of the different funding programs with no personal guarantee. They can use their business credit profile and score to guide them. And they can even click down here to get some workbooks on things like how to prepare a successful funding request, how to start a business are all available here. The art and science of obtaining venture or angel capital is all available right here. So this is it, the most comprehensive funding suite in the world today for business credit and business funding. A lot of what you've seen, this is the only system that has. This is the only system that has both certified business credit and funding coaches. This is the only system that interfaces directly with the business credit reporting agencies where they can monitor their business credit reports and business building in real time. It's the only system that gives them access to things like a DUNS number and access to their basic Experian data at absolutely no cost. This is the only system that really marries business credit and funding together. And you will never find, nor will your clients ever find, another system that gives them more access to business credit and funding than what you're going to find right in this system. So there's a lot of features, a lot of benefits, a lot you can show a client, a lot you should know, but as you can see, the value is here. A client can come in and get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in the system in a very short period of time, making it well worth the price point that you're going to sell it for. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This was a long video, but hopefully you got a lot of good information from it, because I wanted to go through every step, explain the features and the benefits as we did, and now you have a good idea of how to present it to your client, how to walk through it with them step by step. Maybe not give as much detail and take as long as we did in this video, but touch on some of the hot points and the talking points that we talked about, walk them through the system, explain it to them. Again, now you can talk through what the system can do for them or show them in an actual webinar. However you do it, especially if you're showing them the system, this isn't a difficult system to sell. This is a massive, massive, high-value system. So with this much value bedded in, it should be fairly easy for you to start introducing and selling to your customers. And you're going to find that the objection that most people have is that some just can't afford it. And the ones that can't afford it, everybody that you're going to talk to is pretty much going to love it. Most people you'll talk to will love it. The only main objection is some people can't afford it, some people can. The ones that can are going to love it, and especially if you walk through and show them the features and benefits as we did in this video, they're going to see the true value of this system, and you shouldn't have a hard time selling this thing for thousands of dollars. So I hope you enjoyed this video walking through the business credit and funding suite, and hopefully you now have enough ammunition to get started, to start talking to prospective customers and start going through the business credit funding suite with them, and start selling some units and making some money today. So again, this is Ty with Dispute Suite. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video.